Hey everybody, Zeal Brothers here once again with another video. This one about our boy Kyle Rittenhouse. For you who don't remember, Kyle Rittenhouse was the one that was involved in the rioting in Kenosha. What happened was there was rioting in Kenosha after the Jacob Blake case. And so when the rioting happened, Kyle Rittenhouse was part of a kind of a vigilante group that stood up and wanted to defend some of the businesses that were in Kenosha from being burned down. Well, it turns out he was involved in an altercation. He ended up shooting somebody, and now people are charging him. And a couple of days ago in court, basically, let's just say it this way. The case is not going well for the prosecution. And what happened, let's be very blunt. It was hard for me to understand why this case even went forward other than the gun charges. It was really hard for me to understand that. And the reason I would say even the gun charges, even when they're in quotations, I will say that even in quotations. The reason I say that is because the guy who Kyle Rittenhouse shot, even he was holding his gun illegally. So let's look at some of the facts of the case. One of the facts of the case is that people were chasing Kyle Rittenhouse. The second fact of the case that was exposed during the trial, and that many of us knew because we had seen the videos already, was that people were chasing him down and hitting him, and there was a crowd trying to attack him. The third thing that came out in court a couple of days ago is that one of the guys who was attacking him had his own gun and was approaching him with the gun out before Kyle shot him. Now, Kyle shot two people. One person got killed. The other person got his bicep blown off. Real vicious video that you can see. You can find it somewhere on the internet still. And I'm going to put a link to one of the stories that I'm describing now. But a lot of people describe the video of the prosecutor when he was in court and he heard his own witness, right? The witness the prosecutor brought up. The guy who we later find out approaches Kyle Rittenhouse with the pistol before he got shot. When the prosecutor heard his own witness say those words, he just facepalmed. Now, why is it that this case is even being brought forward? The reason is because too many people are injecting all kind of meaning into this case that shouldn't be there. When you look at this case, many people are looking at Kyle Rittenhouse and they're looking at it as if it's a proxy battle. It's a proxy battle between those who want to defend the rioters and those who want to fight the rioters. It's another proxy, a proxy between those who want to defend Jacob Blake and those who want to prosecute Jacob Blake. And pretty much those people are on the same side. And all these political arguments are going. Here are the political arguments. Does a black guy deserve to get shot? Or on the other hand, should the police shoot somebody who has taken a weapon into a car of kids he has presumably kidnapped? Here's another argument. Should people be right to riot? And should they have the freedom to riot and burn down a city? Or should people be able to defend their own businesses? All these arguments are being brought forward, and guess what? None of them have a thing to do with this case. This case is about whether Kyle Rittenhouse had the right to defend himself. Now, here's a second question, another question that a lot of people are asking, and it's a legitimate one, but it has nothing to do with this case. Legitimate question is, should Kyle have even been there? Well, as by all rights of it, it looks like he's a pretty ignorant guy and he shouldn't have been there. And I don't really know how you can defend him being there. He shouldn't have been there. He basically put himself in trouble's way. I'll put it to you this way. I know some gangbangers in my city and I don't like them, but I would not go out of my way to hold a gun and walk around where they are and try to antagonize them. That will be looking for trouble. And that's pretty much what Kyle Rittenhouse was doing. On the other hand, a lot of people are not suggesting this, that the guys that he shot shouldn't have been there either because they had no business being there. A lot of the people who were involved in these riots were not from Wisconsin. Some of those people were there just to destroy. Some of the people were there just enjoying the destruction. And people don't talk about that. But again, that's not the case. The case is, does somebody who's getting attacked have the right to defend himself? This case reminds me a lot of the Trayvon Martin case. If you remember the Trayvon Martin case, many people got mad because George Zimmerman was chasing and pursuing a black guy for what they said was no reason. And he ended up shooting that black guy. And people were like, do white people now have a right to chase a black guy down and murder him? That wasn't the case. The facts of that case were that Trayvon Martin has stole something. George Zimmerman, even though he saw that Trayvon Martin stole something, did not have a right to follow him because he was not a police officer. Trayvon Martin got mad that he was following him and he started fighting. He was beating up George Zimmerman. Again, he has a right to defend himself and fight. Then George Zimmerman, when he felt his life was threatened, which he did, he shot Trayvon Martin. Now, that whole situation was caused by the foolishness of both individuals. And honestly, George Zimmerman should not have gotten himself involved in a situation where he couldn't handle the fist fight that he had started and then later on had to draw his weapon. But at the point where his life was threatened legally, he can defend himself with a weapon. That's just a fact. You may not like it, but that's what the case is about. The case is not about black and white. The case is not about white Hispanics, a term I never heard before that case. The case is not about following black men. The case is not about vigilantism. Those things can lead up to the incident, but what the law examines is, did George Zimmerman have a right to defend himself when he felt his life was threatened? And if he did, case closed. That's why he got off. Same with this situation. This case is not about whether Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist. It is not about whether you should be a vigilante. It is not about whether 16-year-olds should be having high-powered weapons. It is not about your right to protest. It is not about whether Jacob Blake was innocent or guilty. It is not about whether people should be able to defend their businesses. It's not about any of those things. It's about, did Kyle Rittenhouse have the right to defend himself? And if he did, the case should be over. So let's speak about another issue. Why are people not reporting the fact that this case is pretty much over? The media, if you look at reports, and the media has chosen a political side, and again, they've injected meaning into this that shouldn't be there. They have chosen a political side. And they have it, and they keep insinuating that the facts are so against Kyle Rittenhouse that anything other than pretty much his execution will be a travesty of justice. Now, when you look at the facts of the case, that's not how it is. It's pretty much assured that he's going to get off, other than the gun charges. So, the media misleading the public to thinking that a travesty of justice is being committed, what will that lead to? That's going to lead to violence. And there's another example of the media being irresponsible with its reporting, finding a storyline and following it rather than reporting the facts, inciting violence on their own to create a political end that they want. They want to create this storyline that this is a white versus black, even though nobody black got shot. They want to create a story about white supremacists gaining power in the United States, even though that's not what this case is about. They are creating and stoking anger. And ultimately, this is a real example of people sending black people to die for them. Because the media is largely white. They are educated whites. And what they are doing is stoking anger in the black community. And they'll send these black community people out there to riot. And who knows what happens after that. And they don't care because they have a political storyline that they're creating. And they don't care who gets hurt or who gets killed when they're doing it. They're the real ruthless ones. They're the ones who really need to be stopped. Not Kyle Rittenhouse. Not Jacob Blake. Not the police officers. Not anybody else. The biggest instigators of violence in this situation right now are the media. And I'm not one that's against the right of the press, but I do think that we need to hold them morally responsible. I'm not saying they shouldn't have the right to print what they want. If they want to print crap, that's on them. But my point is that we as a public need to hold them morally responsible for the violence that does follow this case when the inevitable conclusion comes and Kyle Rittenhouse is let out on lesser charges. He is not convicted of murder and people go crazy.